All right, so this should be recording, and this is going to be a recording using the OBS software of my second Blitz match with Mike Commisso. Um, so let's challenge him to a rated game. How do we do that? Challenge to a game. And we want 5-0, rated. I think we're good to go. Yeah, I'm going to be streaming a simul later tonight at 7 o'clock on chess.com. So I thought, why not practice using the software first? I'm going to record this and then see if I can get it uploaded to YouTube. This OBS software was surprisingly easy to set up. Yeah, I don't want... Oh, yeah, he accepted it. I was going to say I don't want a long delay at the beginning of the match. All right, so we're playing Mike Commisso, who I think scores better against me than you'd expect from the rating difference. So we're going to have to really knuckle down here and try to play well. I think he happens to know that this is one of the d4 openings I do the worst against. OBS just pushed itself to the front. I wonder why. Anyway, going back to this window, he goes back to e7. So we've got a kind of a King's Indian here, except that white has a3 for free, and obviously the bishop's on e7 instead of g7. It's hard to imagine that e5 is not a good move. I guess his plan is to play... Probably hear the dogs in the background. His plan is to play f5 in response to bishop d3. Maybe then I can play g4 and give him a hard time. Let's try that. Maybe it's a kind of a direct way to challenge his way of playing. Or he can just play h6. That makes sense too. Okay, I could take on d5. After takes, knight takes. There's knight takes e5. So I don't think I actually win material. But it is going to be uncomfortable for him to have to deal with the prospect of me playing e6. In fact, maybe I should do it right now. e6, f takes e6. Now I'm going to throw in knight to f3 so that I can castle faster. And if this knight gets out of the way, he will then be able to respond to e6 with bishop takes e6, so I'll have to prepare it a little bit more. Now it's starting to look to me like it might be good. So let's do that. We'll play e6, we'll get castled kingside, put a rook on e1. And hopefully I can make use of these weak light squares on the king side in exchange for the extra pawn for black. All right. Maybe I should have played knight e5 right away and then put that knight in on g6. Yeah, rook e1 was probably a mistake. Can I get away with bishop f4? We're going to try it. If the knight moves out of the way, my bishop's unprotected on f4. I'm kind of just hoping that won't hurt me. Okay, if we go knight e5 and he takes on d4, it's a little unfortunate. I'm going to go bishop to g3 to get out of the way. And he can take on d4 if he wants to, or play c4. He's got a pretty... It's been a while since I did this kind of thing, I can tell, because I haven't even noticed that the pawn is hanging on e6 until now. Okay, so if knight e5 now, he can take on d4. I can go knight to b5. That looks strong to me. I think he needed to keep control of the e5 square. And if c4, I think I will go bishop g6, just because the light squares are so weak on the king side that it's worth having to get my bishop out of the way later on in order to put the knight on g6. Okay, knight g6. I could have taken back on d4, was also an option. Let's get rid of this bishop. It's a pretty strong one for him. Then I could put my bishop on d6, which makes sense. And then take back on d4. Still down a pawn, but I've got pretty good control, so I think I'm doing okay here. What about rook to c8, queen e2, knight c4? Yeah, that looks pretty good. I guess I'll just bring the bishop back to g3 and say that I still have compensation for a pawn. You know, I could put the bishop on e5 instead, but then the knight could take it. Actually, knight c4, bishop c4, rook c4, knight e6. What's going on there? He's got a weak pawn on d5. His queen's under attack. But my knight has nowhere good to go from there. Oh, really? Okay, so we're just playing queen takes e6 now. Maybe bishop e7 is a threat. Actually, bishop to g6 is. Should have considered that move before now, as usual. Okay, we'll go bishop g6. Let him trade here. And as you can see, the last time we played, I scored 5 out of 6 against him, but that wasn't good enough to maintain the rating difference. He took some points from me. Okay, we should be good here with bishop takes f7 check. And then this, and let's go rook e7 check. Kind of freezes the knight on f6, which otherwise would be able to move into e4 or some other nice square like that. Perhaps next should be knight f3 to e5. Knight c4, attacking my bishop. Okay, we'll just retreat. And if he takes on b2, I'll go with my knight f3 to e5 idea. Knight e4. That hangs this guy, though. So we're going to take on d7. All right, it's one down. Rematch. Yep. What do we think went wrong there? Maybe the bishop going back to e7, although that could be normal, I have no idea. But allowing e5 here, I think, gives white a pretty good edge. All right, he's going to play e4 against me because he always does, and in the past I have tried to defend the Evans gambit. But I feel like he plays that better than he plays the Caro-Kann. So we're going to try this. One time he played Queen E2 against me here, and I played my knight to F6, and he checkmated me on D6. That was pretty embarrassing. Okay, should we go E6? Kind of looks normal to me, so let's do it. All right, knight to F6. Mike, do you still have my stream up, by the way? It's totally fine if you do. I'm just curious. Bishop somewhere. D6, Re7. I think he's going to play D4. So let's just put it on E7 for now. Be kind of defensive and safe. That way there's no trouble on this file. He's done this against me before. Oh wait, this just checkmate me? I hope not. So if I take, he's going to play queen takes E6 check. And then I have to play king G6. I've got to be getting mated there. It's no question. So let's go queen C7. No. Queen A5. Queen C7 and B5. Try to find compensation there somehow. I guess, what did I do wrong here? I don't know. Anyway, so I can't take that. I have to go queen somewhere and give up that rook. Let's go queen to C7. And then knight H8. I guess B5 doesn't make a ton of sense. I should move my knight instead. Maybe knight H8, knight F8. In order to prevent the pawn on E6 from being captured, hoping that someday I can take that knight back on H8. And then I'll go bishop to D7 and castle queenside. So much for not playing as well in the Caro-Kann, huh? What did I do there? I don't know. Let's go knight F8 and then check it out. Goes knight to G5. Do I have to move my other knight at this point, maybe, in order to guard this with my bishop from C8? That might make sense. Okay, bishop D7. Then I'll castle queenside and try to justify the loss of a rook. How on earth am I going to do that? He could take my bishop, in which case I would take back with one of my knights. Okay, maybe knight D5 here to try to get rid of his very nice bishop. I really just want to play quickly and try to win on time, because that's my only hope here. Maybe in the next game, I'll either play knight F6 immediately, or I'll move my knight and play knight to B6. I think that should be okay. We've got a decent time edge, so if I can stretch this out and hit him with some tactics, maybe I can still pull out a win. Not looking good, though, is it? Knight f7 here? No, then I have queen takes f4. Yeah, let's go knight e6. For the same reason, I want to play queen takes f4 if I can. He's up an entire rook, so this is not looking good. All right, we'll go queen takes down here. We will attack his queen. If this is what the simul is going to be like tonight, I'm in big trouble. All right, knight somehow has to get to the f5 square. Maybe rook e8 first. Yeah, because rook h3, knight g7, rook h6, knight f5 is good for me. G4 maybe? I could trade and play knight h4, or I could play knight h4 right away. All right, I also have a nice outpost now on d5, so let's make use of that. I don't mind him trading queens, because he has very little time left. Maybe I should have minded. Okay, let's make a square for my king. Guess he's going to trade everything. I hope he can't beat me in time. Let's see. You got me. Nice game, Mike. Darn it. All right, I have to find a better way to deal with that next time. Maybe we'll go with the immediate knight f6, because I fear that there are still tactics if I just move my knight out of the way. Okay, things went well in this variation last time. Hopefully they will again. Yeah, he decides to trade. Much better. I think I take here. Okay, and then bishop g5 or bishop f4, I think. And then e3 and develop the rest of my pieces. If knight to e4, bishop d8, knight c3, bishop c7, I think white's better. And I think if he's compelled to play h6, g5 before I have castled kingside, I'll get an attack with h4. If I play knight to e5, oops, never mind. Bishop to g3 looks good now, with tempo. My dark squared bishop unopposed should be a really nice piece here. Alright, we're going to castle. You can probably hear my dog Toby outside. He does not like being anywhere he's not allowed to be, no matter where that is, even if it's the place he just was. Knight to e4. I think I want to keep the dark squared bishop, so we're going to take this guy. And knight to d2 should be good, going after e4 and c4. Yeah, but he's giving up the e5 square here, so that doesn't look good to me. Let's bring the knight up to c4. Maybe rooks on d1 and c1, and then b4 and either b5 or d5. Okay, he's doing that though. I could take his last bishop with knight to d6. Yeah, I kind of want to play knight d6 when he has to respond with the movement of his e-rook. Although that's the case anyway after the bishop moves, so what am I talking about? Yeah, so Mike must have shut my stream off. Alright, I'm talking to myself. That's great. Talking to myself and losing. Okay. Alright, let's get the rooks involved in the game. I like that my rook is opposite his queen, so I'm going to play b4. Am I? Yeah, I'm a little worried about queen d3, creating a dangerous passed pawn, but I think I should be able to round that up. I take, I attack it, and then if he manages to play d2 and knight e4, I have knight takes e4. Alright, we're going to go queen back to c2. I don't know that I'm actually threatening to take on e4. Yeah, no, I am, because after knight takes e4, bishop f5, I have knight f6 check. So now that his knight's on d5, perhaps rook f to b1 is the way to go, and then a4, b5. Because I have to protect the pawn on b4. Alright, let's go h3 and bishop to e5. That will remove one of the defenders from this square, although could I even take the pawn in that case? He could just trade and play f6. Yeah, that wouldn't work out for me. Bishop comes to d7. All right. So what about that rook f to b1 idea? My b pawn's not under attack anymore, so maybe I could just play a4, b5. Let's do that. g5. That looks a little desperate. Bishop to e5 attacks that knight. And what? Let's try bishop e5. Because now if I get to take on e4 and he trades and plays f6, I have the in-between move. Queen to g6 check. Ooh, he's walking into a pin. That doesn't look good to me. Knight takes e4. Okay. Now we have a fork. Pretty nice fork, I think, on c5. If knight takes b4, queen b3, the fork is still in effect. All right, he resigns. That was a good one. We've got to find a way to deal with Mike's e4. I have such a hard time against him. Let's try c6, d5 again. And then we're going to go with the immediate knight to f6. That way he doesn't have time to get this knight over to g5 and be threatening something. And then I'm just going to take the knight on e4. Okay, knight d7 to f6 looks good to me. Knight f6, and then we play e6, I think. And now there's no knight on d7, so this looks better. I think white, in response to an early knight f6, is supposed to trade on that square and mess up black's pawn structure, but I'm not sure. Okay, now I shouldn't be getting myself in huge trouble. I may throw in a5 to threaten b5, a4. Then he can play a4 in response. I could play b6 and put my bishop on b7, have some extra queenside space. Guess that's okay. The alternative is to go b5 first, which might be better. Let's get castled. Does he want to go queenside? That doesn't look good to me. If he goes queenside, I get b5 really fast. Okay. After b5, bishop b3, a5, a4, b4, or queen b6. Things are decent for me, I think. And after a5, a4, yeah, I'd rather not allow him to do anything on the queen side, to have any space at all if I can manage to stop him. Okay, now queen b6, bishop e3, bishop c5, d4, bishop e7, d5, bishop c5. Huh, I don't like that for me. But it's not like he's threatening to win a pawn on b5, so I can just go bishop to b7, I believe. Or bishop to d6. Let's go h6 first. And later on play bishop to d6. I want to put this bishop on b7. See if the stream looks all right. I think it's presented pretty well. Nothing hanging off the edge of the screen. I gotta do something better with the webcam. Mike is definitely an improving player. He was Class B for a while. I think when I first met him, he was Class C, maybe. Moved up to Class B, and now he's Class A. No, there's not going to be a capture there. I'm not worried about that. Right? Bishop b7, takes, knight h7. Takes on e6, takes, check. Rook f7. No, there's nothing there. So we're going to go bishop to b7 and try to make use of the long diagonal. c4. Okay. It's a weird looking move. But I guess he intends c5, so maybe it's not bad. So what happens if I play c5? He wins a pawn on b5, right? What happens if I take on c4? That looks decent. The bishop can take back, which is good for the bishop, but then maybe I play c5, and he's got a long-term weakness on the d3 square. Let's try that. If he takes back with the pawn, it's really bad for the bishop. I don't like that. Okay, we're going to awaken my bishop on b7 now. Yeah, things are getting a little scarier on the king side, I have to admit. I could take on b2, though. Like I take on... No, because then I'm going to drop my bishop. Rook a8, bishop h6, takes, queen takes. Don't really want that. Maybe knight g4 instead here. And his queen has to go somewhere. And then he is not really threatening to take on h6 anymore. But he can go queen e2 and then play h3 and come back. So I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. Realizing now that if I had taken on b2, this guy was hanging a moment ago. Not good. Not good with the tactics recently. Okay, knight here. Could play queen back to e3. Can I play queen takes b2 at that point? Bishop h6, gh6, queen h6, queen takes c2. Yeah. Yeah, that wins. But only if queen back to e3, because right now if queen b2, bishop h6 wins the queen. Rook d2. Okay, we're definitely going to take that and attack the queen. Okay. Now what? He doesn't have a threat down there, so I think we can play queen to b4. And if bishop d2, then I have queen b2. Rook d1. Okay, we will trade. And all my entry squares are covered, so I think we can go queen takes b2 here. I hope this whole thing is working. Otherwise, I've just been talking to myself. Not that that's unusual. So queen a1. Yeah, I've got to move. And then we'll go bishop here. Try to take on a4. Really? Okay, we're going to take on c2, play the queen up, threatening the bishop, and if the bishop comes to e3 to threaten my queen, I take the knight. My dog's barking like crazy outside. Alright, queen e4, offering a trade of queens. And I hope to win with the a-pawn. Alright, we got him back with black. 4 games down, 2 to go. We're going to have a 6-game match. And that worked better, so we'll repeat that next time. Okay, time for another Nimzo Indian, I think. e6, knight c3, bishop to b4, queen c2. He's trying a different variation this time. What do I do here? If I go bishop g5 immediately, there's bishop f2 check. I remember that. So we've got to go knight f3 first, and then bishop g5 or bishop f4, and then e3. These pawns should go here. Eventually I should play b4 to expand on the queen side. I think the bishop sits nicely on d3. And I'll castle kingside. And again here, if he plays g5 before I castle kingside, then I have good justification for a kingside attack. Okay, we are going to go a3 first so that there's no knight b4. And if queen a5, I guess I'll move my rook on a1 so that my a-pawn is not pinned. He goes knight d4. Okay, we're going to take that. And play e3. Interesting. Okay, so there might be an f4 later. Let's go bishop e2. I don't really need the bishop on d3. I'm thinking about playing f4 to scare this bishop away once the queen moves. And then to take on f6 and try to make use of weaknesses on the king side. It's an interesting idea, though, for him to have that bishop on e5. d5, okay. Let's trade that and then try to use the d4 square later on. What's going on here? Queen takes. If he takes back with a pawn now on d5, bishop takes f6, annihilates his pawn structure. So he takes with the knight. Yeah, I guess that's good. But I have the 2 bishops, and I can probably hold on to them with queen d4. Or queen c4. I don't keep the 2 bishops if I take on d8. And he ends up with a little bit better pawn structure that way. So I think we have to play queen c4 or queen d4. Maybe queen c4, because I can support a rook movement to d1, but not to c1. But queen d4, queen c7 castle, there still isn't rook d8, so I think we can do this. Queen d4. Okay, it's definitely time to castle. And if I can consolidate by castling and getting my rooks to the c and d files, white should be better because of the 2 bishops. So a move like queen b6 probably isn't very good for black. I trade and castle. The reason the score is messed up down here, by the way, is that we played an unrated game first so that you could tell me whether or not my stream is working. If e5, maybe I can just take it. No, I don't think this is very good. Queen takes... Oh, alright, so he accepts a messed up pawn structure. Well, we'll have to see what his idea is, because for now I'm just castling and bringing rooks to the center of the board. And the 2 bishops should be a big pain in the butt for him. I'm going to go rook fd1, because I think I'm now threatening... No, I wasn't really threatening it, because he had knight f4. Okay, what about bishop to f3? Just to get that bishop off of the e2 square, on which it could have been captured by the knight in some variation with check. We'll go bishop to g3. I think these bishops are pretty nice. And yeah, I guess that's a reasonable rook, so let's get rid of it. White has 2 bishops and a better pawn structure. This should be favorable. All right, but what to do first? Let's make some room for my king on the dark squares. And if b5 intending b4, perhaps bishop to d6. If rook d8 at that point, perhaps just bishop to c5. And if b6, then we go bishop d4. And if b4, we trade and play bishop takes b6, or we capture something on c6. Actually, excuse me, if b6 here, I just take it. The bishop would be undefended on c6. Now that his rook is undefended on the d8 square, I can play rook d1, threaten e4. I don't think this position will get any less favorable for white if the rooks aren't on the board. I think if as we near an endgame the kings can be involved in, my king will go over to the queen side and try to take those 2 b pawns. What's the idea there? Not sure. Let's go rook d1. The rook's protected by the bishop, and if he moves his knight, I take on d8 with check anyway. Okay, and I can probably afford to involve my king at this point. Yeah, my rook is protected, so knight e3 is not anything. I think I've been screwing up because I think b6 is actually a move for him here. He's very low on time, though. I might not see it. Okay, we could trade everything and have a very good chance of flagging him in an endgame. Honestly, that's kind of appealing to me. So let's do that. What? Gave up a piece. All right, 5 down. So far, Mike has taken points away from me, and I think that's going to be the case no matter the result of the last game. But I'd like to defend against his e4 successfully one more time. So I think he is supposed to capture, yeah. And then I'm not sure what black is supposed to do in response, but let's take back with the e-pawn. And I suppose we can go bishop to e6 and ask him if he'd like to repair the pawn structure immediately. I don't think he's going to want to do that. Yeah, let's see if he wants to do that. So he probably played queen e2. He didn't. Okay. My bishop can come out to d6. Queen e2, queen d7, knight d4. So actually, queen e2, queen e7. And then if knight d4, I'm going to play bishop takes b3. Castle, castle. No reason not to castle behind such a nice protective set of pawns. Huh. I was thinking about putting a knight on c5, but he's obviously going to play d4, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. What about putting a knight on d5? What about playing c5 so that I can take on d4 as soon as he plays it? And then I can put my knight on c6. d4, we're going to take that. And his idea, I guess, is that if I take on b3, he plays queen takes b3. And then if queen c7, he has knight b5, bishop takes h2, check, king h1, bishop, queen e5, g3, queen h5, king g2, takes on g3. And he's got some pieces off on the queen side. Maybe I can attack him there. Let's try that. No, he took with that. So why not knight c6 and find a way to activate the rook? Play rook c8, bishop e8 if necessary in response to knight b5. I think I'm doing fine here. What time is it? A little after 1. I've got to do that simul at 7, so I've got a cookout at 2 o'clock. I'm going to have to sneak away from it and get away with playing some chess for a while. So knight b5, bishop b8, if queen d8, rook d8, and then if bishop e3, a6, I don't, maybe there's bishop b6 there. Okay. So here, perhaps bishop to e5, or maybe just bringing the bishop back and targeting the f2 square for later on would be good. Maybe putting it on c5 right away so that he doesn't get in bishop e3. I think that makes sense. That's a checkmate threat. That is definitely a checkmate threat. So I think we have to play g6. Wow, I didn't even look at that. And then knight e5 later. He can check me on h6. I think I can just play king h8 there. And if bishop h6, then like I said, knight e5, the queen has to go somewhere. I guess she has to go to g3. I play rook e8. Looks okay. Could sack an exchange here too, but let's try rook e8. Doesn't really look like I'm getting mated here. I know those are famous last words, but I think I'm fine. His f-pawn is pinned. In order to unpin it, he'd have to play a bunch of pawn moves. I guess he'll play something like rook f to d1, queen c7. But maybe I can just say, these pieces look good, but they're not doing very much over here. Okay, knight d3 is possible. I think he wants to check me. Oh, I'm now no longer defending this guy, right? So let's go queen d7. And if he checks on h6, I'm going to go king to g7 because there's no more knight f5 check. I've got to play much faster. Maybe knight h6 check, king g7, rook f d1, queen e6, rook e1. Knight there. Really? Can I take twice? Why did he do that? All right, let's grab it. And then take here. And we'll go queen to this square. Oh, I'm running out of time. Alright, knight to g4 now is possible. And then rook to e2. Should be winning for black. Okay. So we'll go rook to d8 and put this guy on d2. Alright, we barely won that on time. Very nice match, Mike. You always give me tough games, and I will find an answer to your e4. I'll see you tonight at the Simul. Thank you for your help with the stream, and see you later.